It's the first time that I'd never looked for validation from him. I didn't give a fuck. It was gone.
Yeah.
I didn't need to argue. I didn't need to fight with him to be right. I was like, there's so no point. I'm so done with the disrespect. That's all that matters. I'm out. I'm not even going to argue with him. I don't need his fucking validation. I don't need it.
Because it wouldn't be genuine regardless.
No, it wouldn't be. And that's what I mean. I'm fighting for an absolution that would never come. Like Titanic, the absolution.
Grab your favorite alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage, drink responsibly, do not drink and drive, and join us for the latest episode of Why Complain When You Can Whine. Everything in this podcast is purely for entertainment and psychoeducational purposes only. Enjoy!
Okay. Welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine, making sense of the senseless. Join us as we attempt to make sense of toxic nonsense while drinking wine. I am Dr. Jody Larman, licensed clinical psychologist in the state of California. And today, because by the time this is posted, I will have gone to the California Adventure Disneyland Food and Wine Festival. So my glass is my California Adventure Food and Wine. But I didn't pick my wine well, because I have my glass, I have my little Mickey stopper, but my wine is from France. It's not even California.
It's okay, because French wine is good.
I opened it and then I went, well, that was dumb. It doesn't match my theme, but it's already open. So I either have to drink it all right now.
You do, because you can't waste it.
Exactly. This is Chateau Le Coin, C-O-I-N, I don't know, 25th. I do that to myself all the time. I just hit myself in the head.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've done that. It's from France. It's from Bordeaux. I don't remember when I got this, but I figured it's time to open it up. So
great. Bordeaux's are good.
That is me. That's like Cabernet would be.
Bordeaux is a blend, so it depends on what part of Bordeaux it's from. But if you go left bank versus right bank, right bank I believe is more Cab heavy, and left bank is more Merlot heavy. But they all have the Bordeaux blended grapes, which is Petit Verdot, Cab Franc, Cabernet, Merlot, Malbec. So those are the blends that are.
I like. So
yeah, there you go. So Bordeaux blends are yummy. Yes. I'm not drinking wine. I'm drinking rum out of a really cool fancy glass.
Oh,
that has no fun inside. But my friend made the glass, right? Like she made them.
Yes, so, I like that.
I know.
Is it rough? Is it textured?
No, it's not textured. It's epoxied. So it's in just glitter and sparkle and everything's shiny and glitzy, which I like.
Yes.
Right. Cheers.
Okay. Oh, you didn't say who you were though. You went right to the drink.
Right to the drink. Nobody needs to know who I am. It's not important. Dr. Larman, yourself. Well, I'm her trusty little sidekick. My name is Bree. Joking.
Not when I just took a sip. This is co-host.
Sorry, co-host, sidekick, co-host. Whatever.
We're each other's sidekick.
I'm a licensed therapist from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So I'm a little further north. It's a little chillier here. Not too bad, but basically the same as Seattle.
Yeah. Lately, our weather has been like Seattle.
Mm.
It's supposed to rain again Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know. We need the rain. It's a drought. Blah, blah, blah.
No, I know. I keep hoping that living in Vancouver with all the rain, like Twilight, the vampires will just appear and sweep me off my feet and I can be immortal forever and live a happy life with a beautiful vampire. But the constant cover of cloud and rain does not bring vampires, unfortunately.
But you know what? If you're immortal, that means just think of how many NPDs you run into.
Ew. Or more mental health problems because our world just gets more and more fucked up.
And you have to make sure that whatever you do not turn an NPD immortal.
Oh, no. An NPD vampire? Oh, that's dangerous.
That would be awful. So our topic tonight, actually, and this might get some people a little bit upset, I think. Because they're not I think my opinion is they're not going to like the answer to the question.
Hmm.
And the question is, how do you beat an NPD? How do you beat? When I talk about narcissist, I'm talking about NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, not egocentric, full of themselves narcissist.
Okay, hang on. Well, explain the difference, Jody, because I think it's important that people understand the difference between a full-blown narcissistic personality disorder versus somebody who is egocentrical and narcissistic.
We all can have NPD, narcissistic personality traits and tendencies throughout our life. They ebb and they flow. Whereas NPD is NPD. And that is a personality disorder, and that stays for life. Someone who is egocentric and full of themselves is usually a buffoon, just they only care about themselves. They're the best. They are full of themselves, like narcissists in the water, staring at themselves. Although there was somebody who I knew who gave me this whole long story about narcissists. That was not what we think it was, because they were the expert in narcissism.
Oh, right. And they happen to be in our
giant cluster B person. But so someone that is full of themselves, they're just going to be like always talking about themselves. The big old windbag who's like, I'm the best at this and I'm the best at that, but they're not out to bring you down. They are not out to find love that they felt they never got in childhood. So they are trying to find it now. They are not, they probably don't really, they're not very, they don't like themselves as much, but NPDs are self-loathing. NPDs will look to other people of higher stature, status, power, money, whatever, to be around, to bring them up, because I am so self-loathing that if I can be around these people that are much higher than I am, then I must be higher too, and see how I fit in, and I am one of them. And that is how I also stay away from hating myself. They will wear a mask of, I love myself, I am so great. Now, egocentric people.
Right. How's it?
Huh?
They do that though. Yeah, egocentric people. So how do you tell the difference between somebody who's just egocentrical versus narcissistic?
Because people that are NPD have no empathy. They will constantly gaslight you. They will constantly mind fuck you. They will constantly make you question your sanity. Okay. They're very big on Darvo. If you ever try to say something to them that they do not like, they will deflect. They will reverse victim. They will attack, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. So you are always the one that's bad. They are either the victim or the hero. No in between. Whereas someone that's just full of themselves is like, how do I say this? I'm trying to think of how to word this the best way. They're not necessarily, someone that's full of themselves is not necessarily a mean person, is not necessarily out to fuck your life up, is not going to step on you to get to where they want to be. They might, but that's not their end game. Whereas NPD wants to fuck you up. NPD will suck your soul dry to get validation until they can't get it anymore, and then they go elsewhere. So they are, I'm going to read just the basic.
Okay, before you do that, sorry, I'm thinking it's really interesting. And I mean, we both know lots about narcissism because we both work in the field, specifically myself. And I also just ended yet another relationship with one. And now I've learned, but I have a family member who fits the criteria for NPD, but he doesn't have the exploitive and the malignant factor of what you'd see with most narcissists. He's got an incredibly fragile, insecure. He's a very insecure, fragile person. He's all about money, status, success, constantly bragging about who he's friends with, constantly talking about himself, doesn't care, has to hang out with other special snowflakes. is embarrassing to listen to because he's so grandiose in himself and his thoughts and his whatever. But when it comes to people he loves, he'll give the shirt off his back and he'll do good things for people. So is that more, I'd say he, out of the DSM, I mean, he fits the criteria other than the fact that he has empathy and he can have empathy, although he's still very self-absorbed and self-centered and everything's around him due to his insecurities. So would that be more ego versus and heavy narcissistic traits versus NPD?
It sounds like it, because honestly, NPDs can act like they will give you the shirt off the back. They will give you their shirt off their back, but it always comes with conditions.
Yeah, no, he's not like that. He doesn't give conditions. I'm going to just say it. Like, I mean, the likelihood of him ever seeing it is my uncle, ex-stockbroker, retired stockbroker, moved into the wine industry, gained, and is just, you know, it's sad because I think a lot of people around, like our whole family has been like, oh God, here we go again. Like everybody knows who he is. But if you look at the criteria out of the DSM for narcissistic personality, he meets so much the criteria, but he doesn't have that real evil, malignant streak. It's just his own brutal insecurities. And
histrionic.
Yeah, interesting. No, he's not inappropriate with people and thinking he's like sexual or looking for that kind of. He's very he's just very so incredibly self-absorbed. Like he won't care about what you have to say or talk. He only cares about what he has to say and what he's about, and bragging about money, bragging about his money, bragging about his friends who have money, bragging about all the high status people that he's schmoozes with. It's nauseating to listen to.
But does he have empathy? Because here, okay, a grandiose sense of self-importance, preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love.
Yeah.
Believes that he or she is special and unique and can be only understood by or should associate with other special and high status people.
100%.
Requires excessive admiration.
Yep.
Has a sense of entitlement. In other words, unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. Is interpersonally exploitative, meaning, in other words, takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends.
No. No.
Lacks empathy, is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others.
Again, I've seen good empathy. I mean, he's done some pretty good things for his family. Like he'll do good things for good, for people, but he wants to go ahead with my ex. He wants to take my ex down. Let's put that, like narcissist against narcissist, almost like it's like the ego, right?
Yeah.
Coming into play.
Is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of him or her.
Yep.
Shows arrogant, haughty behaviors and attitudes.
100%.
And then this is just from the TR, so it doesn't give all the little defining things that go with it. But I think you can have, and here's the thing too, people look at the criteria and they're like, oh yeah, because I remember, I'm not saying you're doing this, I remember that one time. And it's like, it's not that one time. This is a pervasive pattern beginning in early adulthood. And unfortunately with NPD, it gets worse with age. As they get older, they get worse. And the big reason they get worse is because everything that they used when they were younger doesn't really work anymore.
Yeah. Again, his is mostly around money. And I mean, he's a good looking guy. And my aunt has been there, and it's been a very difficult relationship, very difficult. And I've watched him be, verbally and emotionally abusive towards her. But again, when you think about, it moving up the ladder and the stress he puts on himself, you can see it's based around insecurity. His dad, he was a military brat. His dad was super abusive and he was never good enough, right? So the wounding and where it's all come from.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I want to say with empathy, there is a level of empathy there. Like, but again, is it for him to look good or is it genuine? You know, I've watched him show concern and have empathy for people, but well, I don't know if it's empathy, maybe more sympathy
Or pity.
or pity. I mean, in my situation, when I left my ex-husband, my whole family can't stand my ex, but he didn't know why I didn't reach out to him and ask for his help. And I was like, well, I'm a grown woman and I don't want to plague people with my issues. And I tried to deal with it. He's like, you should have told me I'd ruin that guy. You know what? If he does that, I'm like, careful. Because if you ruin him, then he can't pay me child support. And I like, you know, like I still need financial buy as much as he's ripped me off and taken everything from me. But you could see the level of what he was willing to do to go to bat for me to protect his family. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just reading those criteria, it sounds like it could be so many people, that so many people meet those criteria. But the thing is how it manifests in a way that is detrimental to the people around them. It's not just a grandiosity. It is a grandiosity of, you are not good enough for me. Therefore, be gone. I am going to fuck you out of my life. And I will make sure that you know that I have ruined you. Because you're ruining me. It is grandiosity. I
mean, if somebody came at him that was trying to ruin him, oh yeah, he'd go 100%. I mean, I think he would find people to help him do that. He's got enough money and power and status in the city that he's made enough of a name for himself that he would absolutely, but that's what he prides himself on. It's like almost, it's so funny, and he hates Trump, but I'm like, but you sound like
yeah, that's so weird because Trump is NPD. If you want to know what NPD looks like,
it's Trump, 100%. That's what Trump, yes. If you want to look at classical definition of the DSM-5, look at Donald Trump. But he exploits and he uses and he abuses and he does that to get his way to the top. I don't think my uncle has done that. In the work world, he's played very legal, very fair. He hasn't done anything unethical, right? How he's treated people around him is just mostly this bragging and this just high, full of himself, yet he's so insecure. So he meets a lot of I'd say the criteria, but he really does lack that malignant part of lack of empathy. He doesn't have, you know, he doesn't go out of his way to fuck people over and hurt people. He doesn't do that. Whereas a lot of narcissists,
NPD
I don't know.
Yes, they do. And here's the thing with NPD in the DSM-5. It was supposed to be taken out of the DSM-5. Wasn't even supposed to be there because the psychiatrists, which are mainly old white conservative males. And I'm not talking conservative in the political sense. I'm talking about conservative in the, we don't go outside the box sense. They did not, and they weren't practicing. So they didn't really see NPD. So they were going to take it out. They did not feel that it was relevant anymore in the DSM-5.
Wow. But
they got a lot of flack from the people that practice and from the psychologists saying, are you kidding?
Yeah.
It is everywhere. And so I honestly.
More so than that show, they say what, 1 to 6% is way fucking higher than that.
Well, I think with the way that it's in the DSM right now, it does not fully capture the evilness of NPD. And if people say NPD is not evil, yes, it is. They exploit relationships to get what they want and need. And if you cross, and this is the thing for tonight, how to beat a narcissist, because if you cross an NPD, they will do whatever they can to bring you down. And when I say whatever they can, a lot of them will go through legal means and abuse the legal system.
That's my ex-husband.
And they honestly, even if they have no money, even if they have a shit ton of money, They will go and claim poverty. They will file in court, in the wrong court, in like domestic violence court, instead of whatever they should be doing, because it's free, because they claim to be a domestic violence victim. And then you, the true victim, has to pay. You don't get to file for free. You have to pay. So they will sit and do whatever they can. They do not have morals and values. Their moral compass is way off the charts. If they even have one. So they don't care if what they're doing is legal. Look at Trump. They don't care if what they're doing is legal and ethical. You are still going to have to fight it. And I'm going to put you on the defense. So no matter what you do, I am always, that's what they think, always going to be one step ahead of you.
That's a malignant narcissist, I would say. So if you look at the categories of narcissism, and I mean, it's not defined in the DSM, but if you talk to, or you do the research, and as you as a psychologist, and then there's what's her name? Dr. Romney, who specializes in MPD. You've got your covert, you've got your overt, you've got your somatic, you've got your, and then you've got your malignant. And then there's also the charitable, right? Where people like, oh, charities and charities, look at me, look at me, look at me. But malignancy is the worst part of narcissism before you hit psychopathy.
But here's the thing. If you cross a narcissist, they will all become malignant.
To a certain extent, because my last relationship isn't going out of his way to fucking ruin me or whatever since I walked away. And it's not like he went out of his way to, I mean, he's an addict, like sex addict, whatever, addicted to women, can't. And it was always selfish. It was always about himself. Didn't care if he hurt me, no empathy, whatever, but he did. But he didn't go, I'd say, purposely out of his way to cause harm.
But you didn't cross him. You didn't cross him. You didn't make him look bad in front of people.
Oh, I know. And I mean, oh yeah, maybe he would if I did. That's true. I don't know. He didn't do it with his ex, and he, although he bashes the shit out of her and talks smack behind her back. And I know he'll do that with me, but my ex-husband went out of his way to punish me. He took my business, my money, financially fucked me, loves seeing me struggle, loves that he's come out on top and I'm at the bottom, gets off on it, takes me to court, litigation abuse, scares the shit out of me, threatens me constantly. He's malignant, right? Whereas the last relationship I got out of, the guy's like, he's not going out of his way to do the punitive things and but
here's the thing, it's the type of relationship that you're in. And what I mean by that is, let's say you two were a high-powered couple.
Yeah.
And then you split up. He's going to smear your name before you can do something to him.
Oh yeah, he's done that before.
Proactive before.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by malignant, is like they're going to come out there.
Right.
Now, this is where I say, how do you beat a narcissist, an NPD? Is that it's not in the conventional way that you think.
No, not at all. There's only one way to beat them.
Go ahead.
No, there is only one way to beat them. But most people, as Dr. Larman is saying, thinks that you have to argue, you have to, prove them, humiliate them, do whatever to get your justice. I'm not even going to say revenge, because people who are healthy don't seek revenge, right? They, again,
heard. We want
right?
to get our point across.
Karma. And we want to be validated, and we want to be heard, and we want to just be understood, right? But there's no malice. There's no maliciousness behind it. But when you've been hurt by somebody that's so incredibly self-centered, selfish, and really hurt you to your core and has caused the psychological damage that they do, because they do, the only way that you can beat a narcissist is to not beat a narcissist, is to literally render them insignificant and walk away. Cancel, clear, delete. They don't exist. You don't fight. You don't engage. You don't. It's why the stonewalling, the gray rocking, all the terms. It is the only way to beat them. If you are looking for justice, if you are looking for compensation for the way that you've been treated, it isn't going to be by going out and bashing them, smearing them, bad talking them, doing whatever. It's literally going and moving on with your life like they never existed.
It is living your best
Exactly.
life, not caring about
Mhm.
what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're seeing, what they're saying. Years
Exactly.
ago, when I left my ex, someone asked me this question because I answer questions on Quora, the forum Quora.
Yeah. Or yeah.
And they asked, you know, what do you think happens if you meet your ex 2 years down the road after you left them? And I responded, and I still believe in my response. My response was basically, I already know because I see my ex every day and I'm just the best version of me that I can be. And I know that that pisses him off, but I don't care because I'm living my life. And that's
Mhm.
fine. He hates that I'm living my life without him. And I don't even,
Exactly.
he's insignificant. He is a coat rack, insignificant.
Yeah.
But I look at it now and I think my answer should have also included, what do you care? What do you care what your narcissist thinks if you run into them 2 years later? Just keep
Mhm.
on.
Keep moving.
Don't
Yeah.
care. So here's what I want to say. So many people, and I get this, I understand this. I went through this myself in different scenarios, not just romantically, but I had a supervisor who turned out to be a very malignant narcissist that all he wanted to do was fuck with everybody that he could and bring anybody that turned on him down. But then I also had a lead professor, and I learned my lesson. No matter what, if an NPD feels that you have slighted them in the least, they will. There's exceptions, I get it, but I've never seen this happen yet. They will Darvo. Okay.
Yep.
So whatever happens, Darvo is deny, attack, reverse victim and offender.
Yep.
And that is, wait a minute. So you're saying you caught me. I had my ex's phone bill. You caught me calling this other woman. Okay. Now it becomes, how dare you violate my privacy? That's my phone bill. That is my personal life.
Yeah.
That's not for you to be a part of.
Yeah. I went through the same thing with this guy I broke up with last summer. I took his phone. It was the only way I could find out that he was cheating and that he'd been lying to me. And he's like, how dare you take my phone? I should charge you. That's my personal property. And his mom went after me for the same thing. It was so funny because I thought, that's what you're concerned about? You're concerned about me taking your phone after 3 years, and not the fact that you lied to me for 3 years and were sleeping with 10 other women unprotected at the same time for the first 6 months of our relationship.
Well, you shouldn't know that.
Yeah, of course, right?
You're not supposed to know that.
No, I caught him. And so that's what they do. That's a perfect example of what Jody's just saying as Darvo. It's deny. And then this is the victim offender reversal, right? Where I'm the victim of of the infidelity and the lying and the betrayal, but he's going to now turn it around that I am the offender by taking his precious property that was not mine to take and catching him red-handed.
My ex came over on New Year's Eve. He was late. He was very late. I didn't know it now, but he was with his new supply.
You didn't know it then, right? Yeah.
I did not know. I'm sorry. I did not know it now. I know it now. I did not know it then.
Did not know it then. Yeah.
I knew something was weird because he kept saying, okay, it'll be another hour. It'll be another hour. And then he was like, oh, I have to wait till my kids leave. My kids are here. They won't leave. He had 2 boys. Then finally he comes over and he comes to the front door. He has a key, everything, comes in. And I yelled from upstairs. I'm like, I am folding laundry. Come upstairs. He didn't. He goes in the kitchen, turns on the TV. I finish what I'm doing. I go downstairs and I sit down and he's like, oh, now you bother to come. And I'm like, did you not hear me? I said I was upstairs folding laundry. And he goes, oh, you're going to have that look on your face the whole time, the whole pursed lips, all upset. And I'm like, I just got downstairs. What the hell? He's like, I don't need to put up with this. I don't need to be here. I don't need to deal with this. This is New Year's Eve. And I'm like,
That you're 18 hours late for.
yeah. I'm like, excuse me. And he goes in the other room and starts to pack his stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I was upstairs folding laundry, and we had to sit and have a talk about, let's make the evening a nice evening. It's New Year's. So the next morning after New Year's, I'm cooking breakfast, and he comes downstairs and he's like, God, he goes, I don't even know what happened with my son. When I don't know where he is. And I go, oh, I thought that you couldn't leave to come to my house until your son left to go to his house. And he turns Darvo and he goes, oh my God, I am so tired of you thinking I'm lying about everything. I walk on eggshells around you. I'm sick of it. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's my ex. That's exactly what I just left.
I was like, whoa, oh, okay. So now I'm accusing him of lying and cheating and all. And it's like, just like on Valentine's Day, we had all these plans. And all of a sudden, he said to me, I can't do this. Why are you making these plans for us? I'm like, dude, we've had these plans for a month now. And he goes, I have to get my taxes done. He goes, I bet you think I'm going to be with that other girl.
Oh, he's telling on himself.
Yeah, and I'm like, I hadn't, but now I am.
But now I do.
It's just like, wow. And then on Valentine's Day, he went and got his taxes done, was texting me, a block of about 4 hours of no texting that just stopped, and I'm like, what happened? And all of a sudden I get this picture of his daughter in the hospital. His daughter lives 4 states away or whatever in Kansas. And he's like, my daughter's in the hospital. How dare you sit and yell at me and scream at me when I'm worried about my daughter had an asthma attack. And I'm like, okay, first off, I had no idea. And I look at the picture and I'm like, okay, either we are back to the future, because I know there's a time difference, but this time has not happened. So it was either early this morning or it's going to be in the future. But it's no matter what, even with the time difference, this time on his watch, he didn't know I was going to zoom in. But I'm like, and he goes, how would you like it if your son was sick and I stopped him and I said, I'm sorry, you would be with me, I would think, if my son was sick. So that deflect or deny and reverse just kind of didn't work. So we had to come up with another one.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, you are blowing up my phone and I can't even talk to my baby mama because my phone's blowing up. I'm like, dude, I text you one time.
Yeah, exaggerated beyond horrific bullshit lie that they love to use.
So when I left my ex, it was done. It was over. I tried talking to him and then I realized, and this is why I say, you will not get closure, because they will either say everything that you want to hear and love bomb you just to get you back, just to fuck with you again, or they will Darvo. So you're not going to get closure. I have talked to too many people though that say, I'm not going to go down without a fight. I am going to win this. And
how them, Jody? Huh? How does that work out for people that attempt to fight a narcissist?
I can't do therapy over this, but I can give advice. So the advice I'm going to give to people is your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your financial well-being, your spiritual well-being, all of that means absolutely nothing to an NPD.
And ask yourself why you're fighting. Why are you wanting to watch them again? That's again a form of compensation and justification, like justice, right? When you look at trauma and you look at people who've been traumatized and abused, by people or a person or been hurt significantly, there's a few ways in which they can respond. And I remember doing and reading a lot of Judith Herman's research on this, who is the head of the psychiatry department at Harvard for years. She's in her 80s now, but she wrote Trauma Recovery. She's the one that coined the term CPTSD. And she basically says that there's this whole thing about forgiveness. So a victim will feel like they need to forgive in order to heal. Such a load of shit. It's Catholicism and this whole justifying sins and crap.
But I just want to stop you right there for a second. I'm going to interrupt. If you really look at the definition of forgiveness,
yeah,
it is letting go of the anger for ourselves.
Yeah. But we've talked about on podcasts. It just should be a different word, because it can get very mixed up where people are like, what do you mean I have to forgive my abuser?
Not absolution at all.
No.
That's what it's become.
It's not about forgiveness. It's about just letting go so you're not in pain anymore. And I think there could be another more appropriate than forgiveness, because it renders, again, a victim of abuse or trauma feeling all that they have to forgive, and it's just
absolve the person
of all the sins and what they've done. So there's that, but then there's also the vindictiveness, wanting to get back at, and then the justice or the compensation. So victims will look for compensation of trauma, and justice from trauma, right? And or getting back at. And so when you've been hurt and you've been traumatized, it's a natural instinct to want to get back at, win, beat them, render. Again, you're looking for compensation for the pain and the trauma you've endured.
Not only that is, you never, if you think about the relationship in any kind of, you really never got to say your side of the story. You never really got to speak your mind. You also want to, it's like, no, that's not the way it happened. No, that's not what happened. I want to set the story straight.
Right. Because of the lying and the whatever. Yeah. But again, it's understanding that these people will out themselves eventually, and they will gain a reputation for being dishonest, and karma is a real powerful thing. So when studying her stuff and then going through a lot of my own stuff in retrospect to my ex and the way that he financially abused me, and took everything. You want to talk about wanting compensation. That was my biggest issue. I didn't want vengeance. I didn't want to get back at him and fuck him over and take all of his money and watch him suffer. I wanted rightfully what was mine given back to me, and the anger that I held on to, right? And wanting to speak it and wanting to fight with him to get him to see. And again, they like that. They're getting off on it. You're actually just feeding them. So the more that you want to fight back with a narcissist and you want to beat them at your own game, you're giving them exactly what they fucking want. And that's attention from you.
Yes. I had someone say to me that, let me find what they had said, because I wrote it down, and, okay. They said, from my experience and understanding, the best way to deter a bully is to show them that there may be consequences for their actions. This is what I responded to that for some bullies, for like bullies in school and for physical bullies that are insecure, whatever, that might be true. But if someone is NPD, that is not the case, because they don't care about consequences. They don't suffer from consequences the same way that you and I suffer from consequences.
No, they don't.
They're proactive, they're conniving, they're cunning, and they're one step ahead of you to turn the blame onto you. By the time you get there, you don't even know what's going on until you're on the defense. You have, because a lot of people are not built like, oh, I'm going to turn around and fuck this person over.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, I'm going to tell the truth. But then when you go to say it, they're already 5 steps ahead of you, and they've already told so much shit that you're now having to defend yourself. Is that by the time you get there, by the time you even know what's going on, you're on the defense. They always have to be either the hero or the victim. Now, that doesn't mean that they will never lose nor never suffer consequences. It just means that you have to be strategic about it. If you see them, you don't engage. If you must engage, you gray rock. No emotion, just be civil, just give them the information that is needed. Just get the information, because they will try to bait you into emotional conversations.
Yeah,
And
all
once
the
they
time.
bait you into emotional conversations, and I think this is really important to remember. Once they bait you into an emotional conversation, they will use that to show that you are out of control, that you are crazy, that you have no emotional regulation, and on and on and on.
Or that you're the abuser because of reactive abuse, because when they get that emotional response, it's so out of so much frustration. The amount of times I was told by my recent partner that I was the abusive person, and look at me, I'm the one name calling, I'm the one reacting, I'm the one getting all hostile, was only after it'd been 2 hours of Darvo that I was experiencing. Literally deny, deflect, blame shift, victim, offender, reverse. Like, it was brutal.
But here's the thing, they're going to also do that in public at this point, because they want to show people
that it wasn't them, that they're not responsible for anything.
Look at what she's doing. Look what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I said, it's really hard to go gray rock. It's really hard to ignore. It's really hard to not have closure. And the thing is, it makes them, once you kind of go gray rock, leave them alone, sometimes it makes them try harder. Eventually, the more
I'm experiencing that now. Yeah.
It's called an extinction burst. I'll tell you that in a minute. But the more you don't take the bait, the more they begin to lose control.
Yep.
And this is really important to remember. That's when the truth begins to show. You don't have to do anything, because the more you go about living your life and not taking the bait and not proving their point and not being emotionally dysregulated and all that, they can't control the situation anymore. And if the one thing that happens when a narcissist can't control the situation is they lose control.
They do, and they become emotionally dysregulated, and then they out themselves to the rest of the world.
Yes. So that's where the karma and all of that comes in.
100%.
Being the quote unquote stable, normal person pisses them the fuck off.
Yeah.
Because it's not proving their point.
No, and they're not getting anything from you. Again, you are a sense of supply. The more that they disrupt you and the more that they render you crazy and make you react this way, it gives them power. It's control.
I had a lead professor who turned out to be NPD. Oh my God. It made me literally, sadly, quit teaching altogether. I taught in grad school, and I didn't realize he was NPD, but he was doing all of these things to totally, completely sabotage me. Like not sending me the work, not sending me the book, not sending me the syllabus, not sending me the PowerPoints and all of that. And I figured out he was NPD when I had a meeting with the dean who was over him. And she said, I'm going to have a meeting with him today, and then he's going to be coming into your class, and I know he's not going to be in a good mood. So I'm just warning you right now. I'm like, well, he's always been nice to me. And she goes, I'm just telling you. I'm like, but he's been nice to me. She goes, I'm just telling you, be prepared, because he's not going to be. And I'm like, why do you have to have this meeting then before my class? But he came into my class, and right away, the students really liked me, and he saw that. I read this piece on how the brain worked, and it just went over everything in a really, I read it to my inmates. It's all about when you go to the movies and what part of your brain is working when you're watching and eating popcorn and all of that. And when it was done, it's a grad school physio psych class. They were like, whoa, okay, that makes so much sense. And he was like, oh yeah, that was just lovely. That goes with class today. And it was like, okay, I'm going to ignore that. And then he said, yeah, she taught inmates. It was like, well, because yeah, if inmates want to learn, I could pretty much teach anybody. But it got to the point where I just sat back and I was like, okay, I can't fight this man. I realized that he's NPD and he's throwing me under the bus because he lost his job. I didn't know that they had hired me to replace him.
Oh God.
I didn't know that. And I guess
Right.
he had been told that before the class. And so I just decided to, you know what? I'm just going to let him walk himself into a corner. And so about 40 minutes before class was over, I said, you know what? He was talking. I said, why don't you go ahead and finish? And he went on and on about himself and what happened to him and how he should be teaching and he's the best teacher around and how they hired me without talking to him. And I'm just sitting there watching the students' faces, kind of going, why are we being told this stuff? And I'm quiet. And then he goes, but we love Dr. Larman, don't we? Let's give her a thumbs up. And people are just like,
Yeah.
so I literally ended that class. As soon as I was done, I called up the dean at Pepperdine. I said, I'm sorry, I can't teach anymore. I was having such a trauma response. I was shaking so bad inside. Like I couldn't stop. And I was like, this is not good. This is not good at all. And I called and I said, I can't work with him. And even if this is his last semester, I can't work with him anymore. I'm really sorry. And they said, we'll do anything we can. I said, no, there's not going to be anything that this man will not do because he's pissed at me because I was hired without his notice. And sure enough, they're like, we'll do anything. They watched the video. They knew everything. They were trying to support me. And I said, no, he's going to come after me. He is going to do anything and everything that he can. And even when I left and I quit, he was still sending me emails saying, you know, the only reason I complimented you was to make you look good in front of the students, but I didn't mean any of it. You're terrible. And I just
weren't you able to, like, what about like harassment? Weren't you able to take legal action against him?
You know what? I wasn't, again, you can't win with MPD. They were trying. The school really wanted me to stay. So they weren't doing anything wrong.
Right.
And at this point, they had told him this was his last semester. He was no longer going to be teaching after this point. But he messaged me that. And then I didn't respond. And then he messaged me again with basically the same thing and saying, I better never use his work that he gave me, that he didn't give me. And on and on and on. And I told the school, I said, look, he is still harassing me. I'm out. I'm sorry. Find another teacher. I'm done. And it affected me so bad. Because I said, this man, if I stay here for the whole semester, he is going to continue to harass me. Just enough to stay under the radar. Because again, they know the legal loopholes.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. 100%.
And so it's just enough to be not harassment, but harassing. And any other person that hadn't been through, and I had just left my ex, and any other person that hadn't been through that and with an MPD might not have
reacted that way, had a response. Yeah.
Or had the wherewithal to realize that this man will stop at nothing.
Yeah.
Because he is blaming me for his narcissistic wound of them letting him go. So I walked away, and honestly, I mean, I'm sad that I had to do that, but I'm like, it is not worth my mental well-being. So I tell people, they will look for legal loopholes, like filing in court for free, claiming property.
I know.
You know, they will do things like if you're divorcing them, they will suddenly have no money.
Yeah.
Everything's in cash.
Yep.
And to get a forensic analysis of their books costs you money.
Yeah. Or like my ex, he would email my lawyer off the hook, which cost me $40 every time he did.
Okay. I can say this now. There's a particular, I don't know. I honest to God don't know if he is on TikTok anymore. I have nothing to do with him and I do not care. And I'm not going to say his name, but there was a creator on TikTok that did, and everybody knows this, go after Heather and Ashley and myself. I did not take the bait.
Mhm.
I basically said, I am not speaking with you. I am blocking you. Do not speak to me ever again. And no matter what he did, I did not respond. No matter what he said, I did not respond. He sent a cease and desist, and it was like, cease and desist what? I am not talking about you. I didn't say, this was to myself. I'm not talking about this man. I am not saying this man. So the cease and desist is irrelevant. Basically, it wasn't even a legal cease and desist. But unfortunately, Heather and Ashley had to deal with him.
Mhm.
And this man did anything and everything. He would email the attorney because he didn't have to pay. So he would email their attorney all the time.
Mhm.
All the time with
Mhm.
bullshit. That
Yeah,
ended
just
up
to break
money,
people.
money,
Yep.
money. Yeah.
Money, 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 money. And that's how you break people and you scare them and you, again, it's just all
Yeah.
bullying. Yeah.
And if you don't have the money, and most of us don't have an extra $10,000, $20,000 to find an attorney, no matter how right we are to fight it. So the best thing is like, okay, you do you, I will do me, and I'm out. And I'm not going to take your bait. Like, he sent me the nastiest email after he saw one of my videos that said, I'm going to go after you next. And I basically responded with, thank you. This is going straight to the attorney. He never came after me after that, thankfully. And I filed a report. And I also said I filed with the FBI for cyber stalking as well. So I'm not going to get into it with you. I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to, whatever. It's next time this goes straight to the police.
Yeah.
And I already talked to the police. So I'm one step ahead of you. That's another thing. It's not that you can't fight back. Just be strategic about it.
Well, it depends on what it is and the circumstances. I mean, when there's legal stuff involved and they've gone as far as abusing, that's like litigation abuse, right? Like when people use the system to their advantage to threaten, to scare, to intimidate, to bully, to exploit, to blackmail, whatever. That's my ex-husband.
But here's the thing. When you get an attorney, you deal with that attorney. I know too many people, unfortunately, that will roundabout still deal with their ex.
Well, because again, this is such an insidious form of abuse. When you look at the victims of narcissistic abuse, they're so broken down. When I left my ex-husband, people on the outside were like, why are you not fighting him? And I'm like, because do you want to see my text history? Do you want to see the phone calls? Do you want to see the amount of times he's shown up and then I had to call the police because he's scaring the shit out of me? Do you want to see the threats and that I don't have $250,000 to take him to court to fight him? And that he's going to continue to stay on my business, which means he'll take half of my earnings for the rest of his life and he doesn't need to because he has his own job. And I'm the mother of our kids and I need to be able to support myself and it's my only means of income. Didn't care. Everything was peanut and he threat. And I finally just went, it's just fucking money. I'm out. My mental health. I was literally, my anxiety was so bad and my PTSD was so bad. Like I'd never had to rely on benzodiazepines or any medication or anything. My doctor was prescribing me shit out. Like it was unbelievable. And people are like, you're going to regret this for not fighting him. And I'm like, if you think you can do a better job, go for it. But right now I'm going to have a fight. I'll be in a mental institution. Like I'll be in a psych ward because I'm going to have a breakdown. I can't cope. I've got 3 kids to look after. It's not worth it.
And that's where I say your financial, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your financial well-being, your spiritual well-being, your psychological well-being, all of that is honestly so much more important. And I know it's easier said than done because we want to show that we are the victims. It's not that we want to show it. It's that we have to, I don't know what the word is. I'm at a loss for it. But like you said, validation. That I am not the bad guy.
Yeah. Well, because you've been invalidated for so long and then you know that they're going to lie, you know, they're going to smear you. But the best thing is like, it's walking away silent.
Yeah.
Is more powerful than anything because the people who matter and the people who know, and again, going to trigger the narcissist more than anything is when you render them insignificant, you walk away silent, you come out on top and they come out showing their true colors eventually.
You know, it's funny because my ex, we used to teach together. He guest lectured at Cal State University, Bakersfield, I think it is, and another school. He got me in with him. He wanted me to do it. So he did his presentation on the custody side. I did my presentation on the mental health side. And we did it for, gosh, 6 years, 7 years. Broke up in 2018, so 7 years. And then one day, my colleagues were coming up to me saying, he's asking, I had like 4 colleagues say, he asked me if I wanted to teach. Isn't that what you do? And I'm like, yeah. And they all told him no, without my knowledge. I'm so happy. You know, it's like, that's when you see that people, you know, have your back. They're like, yeah, we thought it was awfully weird that he would come up and say, hey, I need someone. I really love your work, blah, blah, blah. You'd be great with me. It's like, because we all thought that you did it. I'm like, I did. And I so much appreciate so much. I had this one guy who came up to me and said he asked his wife to teach with him. And he goes, but I know you aren't you? And I'm like, well, apparently not anymore, but okay. So, and then I called the professor myself and he goes, like, yeah, I would love you to teach. He goes, my ex told him I was no longer doing it. And I never responded to any of the requests from my ex for that day to teach. I'm like, no, I was never told about teaching. So my ex was trying to cut me out professionally from doing that. And then unfortunately he did succeed, because even though the professor said to me, oh no, I'll call you directly anytime I need you, I never heard from him after that. So I think my ex was kind of brought someone else in or did whatever. I'm not going to fight it. It's like, you know what? I'm better off. It's not worth it. But the people that know.
Exactly. The people that know, and the people that are important know. I remember cutting off even a friendship a few years ago. And she was like, I called her a cluster bee milkshake. Being antisocial, which she didn't have. She had traits of everything, especially histrionic. But she, it was like, again, the possessiveness. It was like we were dating and she was just a friend if I didn't respond in a certain amount of time. And to the point where she was trying to control my feelings and how I felt about a certain situation and the drama and the whatever. And, you know, she's well known within the community. She comes from a family with a lot of money. She was adopted. Mom died in front of her too, drug overdose. Yeah. Like, I mean, we're talking, and being in foster homes, like she's got some significant trauma and some abandonment stuff. But in the end, it was like, you know, I'm just not happy in this situation anymore. This isn't a healthy friendship. And I'm so tired of being dictated and controlled. And it's like possessed, and it was just bizarre. And it wasn't until I had my ruptured appendix and I was in the hospital that a mutual friend of ours she FaceTimed me while I was in the hospital. And she goes, oh my God, you are in the hospital. And I said, yeah. And she's like, are you okay? And I said, I'll be fine, but I've had a ruptured appendix and it's complicated and I've had complications and I've been really sick. And she goes, oh, Lisa's telling everybody you're lying and you're full of it and you're faking it. And I laughed, and she goes, she's so cruel. Like, I can't believe she would say that. And it's true. And I said, well, you're calling me to check to see if it's true, for one thing. She says, I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry. I just can't believe she'd make something like that up. And she's like, are you bothered by it? And I said, no, she just made herself look like a complete ass. Because I am in the hospital. I would never make something like that up. I'm not posting it all over social media, but you actually had to call to see if I am. I said, she's nailing her own coffin. I don't need to say a word. And it didn't bother me because she embarrassed herself.
Yeah. My old chief at the prison, very, very malignant MPD, very. And it was like, dude, I already know you're not going to gaslight me. You're not gonna play that shit with me. And so he hated that. And I would have people come to work, you know, I worked with saying, how do you come to work knowing you're a target, knowing all this shit that's going on, and you're working? And I'm like, because eventually I'm doing my thing. I'm living my life.
Yeah.
And it'll come out. And sure enough, like there was a guy who, another clinician who was fairly new when I met him in a training. And later on, like a couple months later, we started working together and he goes, I was told you were crazy. When he first started, he was told by them that I was crazy and to stay away from me. He goes, you are crazy, but not in the way that they were saying. It was, I love working with you. And I'm like, that's the thing. When you pay attention, I had another girl that was close with my chief that she got in his radar and she messaged me saying, we were told to stay away from you. We were told you were after us. You were unstable. And she goes, it's not you. And I'm like, I didn't even know this shit was going on. I don't care. And I was living my life and doing my thing. And guess what? Eventually, they found out the truth. So that's the thing. If you try, and I'm not saying that you have to just put up with it and deal with it. What I'm saying is your mental well-being is so important. And it will suffer if you try to defend yourself. And
I did.
Yeah.
I did. In all aspects of both relationships that were super toxic. And I still, with my ex, it's parallel parenting, right? Like I have to, there's no co-parenting because he is getting worse the older he gets. It's pretty unbelievable to watch, but it's true. So again, your mental health is far more important. It's just learning to cancel, clear, delete when you can and render them as insignificant as you possibly can. If you don't have children with this person, do not, if it's a family member, consider how toxic they are and the decision that you are making to keep them in your life. Is it worth it? Is it worth your physical, mental, spiritual, financial health? Like all of it.
Because that you can't
have to cut them out. Yeah.
You can earn money again. I know it's not easy. And I'm not saying all of this, you can snap your finger and life is great. I'm not saying that, but you can earn the money again.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
But your mental health, your psychological well-being, that doesn't just snap back.
No, it doesn't. No, it takes time. Again, you're going to have PTSD and then you have to heal from the PTSD.
Go to therapy and get help. It is hard. Okay. It is hard. We're going to have to wrap this up soon, but it is hard to remain the stable person. It really is, because they are going to push every button to show that you are not stable in any way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah. No, I've been through it twice now.
Yep.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is to not react, but every day gets easier and easier, because this is what they do. You put a behavior on extinction. When you don't want a behavior, you put it on extinction. It's what we do with kids. It's what we do with animals. It's what we do with people. You ignore the behavior. Extinction is called, planned ignoring of a behavior is called extinction. So you put a behavior on extinction. When that happens, though, you will get what's called an extinction burst.
Okay.
So you are ignoring me. I'm throwing a tantrum. You're ignoring me. What am I going to do? I'm going to tantrum louder and longer. But and then that's when you're like, okay, I gotta do something else and get out of the room, because eventually they're going to tire out. They're going to stop. When someone does not get the desired response that they are looking for, they're going to try harder, and then they're going to stop. And as long as you continue to ignore that behavior, it eventually goes into what's called extinction. It's not easy, because a month later, it can crop up again.
Yeah.
Out of the blue, you hear them. Somebody said that they said something about you or whatever. Nope, I'm not going to give that reaction. If I am not getting the reaction from you that I want, I'm going to find someone else. That's what
they do. Narcissists do that. They need supplies. So when they're not getting the desired reaction from you, if they don't already have supply kicking around, which 99.9% of them do, then you are going to need to, again, they're going to get tired. They're going to move on. Yeah.
However, even a year later, they may contact you again.
Oh, no, they do. They're shameless. I will just say, for example, my recent ex, who had major problems with womanizing and infidelity and lying, like pathological liar, contacted a woman 5 years before, like 5 years ago. We've been together for almost 4. And 5 years ago, who he got caught screwing around with 2 women, unprotected, of course. They found out, they freaked out. And the funniest story when he told me the situation was, I was hooking up with these 2 girls. I went down from 7 to 2. I was doing really well. And he's like, but we weren't committed. Neither of us were. And so I was off the hook. I was fine, but I was, in his terms, raw dogging them both. Gross. I'm like, did you just really say that out loud? Anyways, I'm still questioning myself, going, why am I with this person? And he says, it's not my proudest moment. It was awful, but I was sending the one girl our night together and how amazing it was in detail. And I don't know what happened with Apple and their product, but it somehow screenshotted her comment in my pocket and then sent it to the other girl I was sleeping with.
Did he really say that? So
He
the
did.
phone magically screenshotted and sent
And his brother said, you should sue Apple. Okay.
I
So I'm
would
listening.
love to see that lawsuit.
Oh, dude, fuck. I was laughing so hard. I'm like, do you really think
Oh my
you
God.
expect me to believe what you just said? He's like, no, seriously, it's true. And I'm like, uh-huh. You mean that you accidentally sent the wrong message to the wrong girl? And that's really what happened, but you can't admit that because you look like such a fucking loser and such a moron. So sure enough, that was the story. But oh, I've changed and I felt so bad and I was so guilty and I felt so bad for both of them. Well, at Christmas, while I was sleeping in the other room, he decided to message that one girl because apparently he had a moment of consciousness, or like a consciousness, and he felt guilty and he felt like he needed to apologize to her and say that he's changed and he's a different person and he would like to meet her.
And it had been 5 years.
5 years. She thought she had him blocked. Her boyfriend now, who she's dating, was sitting beside her wanting to tell him to FO, and she goes, no, don't give him a response.
Yeah.
Leave it. Block him. And she did. She just did, like, he doesn't deserve anything from anyone. And of course, I found this out from her because I was in contact with her. But I would have never known that because he didn't tell me. And he certainly wouldn't have told me to go, that like he was going to meet up with her. Again, these people, like, they will lie and lie and lie. They get their hand caught in the fucking cookie jar and they still lie. And his response to me when he somehow got through my blocks said, I was simply sending her an apology, but I didn't feel safe enough to tell you the truth because you judge me so harshly. When this guy lies and cheats.
I think one of the best Darvos that I could come up with was when I took him to court because I paid for our vacation and he didn't pay me back because he was with me and I asked for the money. So I sued for 3 times the amount, but we're at court and he brings her and she's wearing an engagement ring. I'm like, oh, lovely. Great. Good for her. But this is the biggest Darvo ever. He says to me, I can't believe you brought us to this point.
Yep. I can't believe you brought us to this point.
I brought us to this point. He was like, he thought that he could just get away with it, which makes me wonder how many others he got away with. Just go play around and come back home. And how dare I have found out, left him, and now he's stuck with her. I did that. That was my fault. He didn't want to be stuck with her.
I know. It's embarrassing with how brutal their Darvo really is or what they do and the lack of accountability. Right?
He's like,
literally, it's so beyond embarrassing. The reason why I finally broke it off with this guy was because I was driving, I was about to go meet him and his daughters for dinner. And he thought that I had hung up the phone and I was going to, but I was trying to find my ETA because he wanted to know what time I was going to be there. And so I was looking it up on the Google Maps and I hadn't hit the end button on the phone call. And I said, oh, it's 47 minutes. So I'm like, so-and-so, so-and-so, it's 47 minutes, it's 47 minutes. And they didn't hear me. And all of a sudden I heard in the background, oh, is the mom cute? Now, to the average person, they'd be like, you broke up with a guy over that? Like, really? Like, what? So what? So he was like commenting. I'm like, but the infidelity, the womanizing, the misogyny, the cheating, the lying, the lack of trust, the breaking up with me and blaming me and saying, I can't do this anymore because I caught him hiding stories from women. I was like, and I'm psycho and I'm the one that has the trust issues, lying to me for the 3 years while he knew he was up to no good. Again, typical narcissistic bullshit. But it was that last straw that I thought, I can't trust you. So I texted him and I said, the mom's cute? Is the mom cute? Question mark, question mark. His response right away, without even thinking, was LOL. I knew you were listening, so I thought I'd throw that in there for you as a way of fuck you because you're creeping on me. And then I went, oh my God, that is probably the lamest cop out and cover up and gaslighting tactic or attempt I have ever fucking heard in my life. You got busted and you can't even admit that, yeah, you heard me. And I probably shouldn't have said that. Instead, you had to gaslight the shit out of me and say that it was not what it really was, trying to trick me out of the reality, and that you knew I was listening. For one thing, due to our infidelity issues or yours, you would never use women against me or to punish me or to be hurtful. You just wouldn't. He wouldn't, because he knows it would cause so much conflict. You're saying that, and then you were accusing me of creeping on you when I wasn't. I was simply looking at the ETA. And if you actually knew I was listening on the phone, then you would have heard me calling your name several times saying, hey, 47 minutes away.
Thank you.
But yeah,
my
that's it.
ex,
That's it. That's what ended it. I was like, I don't trust you. I never will. And now you're gaslighting me. Fuck you. I'm out.
my
It was
ex
like
said he lived by the beach. We worked in the desert, and one day I went and got gas and I'm driving, and I just, for some reason, you just kind of look. I knew the address that he said he used because he had to use an address to be on the CERT team. They had to be within 5 miles of the prison or something. So he's like,
right.
my friend's address. So I was passing that address and I looked, and it's there in his uniform getting his mail. And I was just like, I stopped my car. I look, he looks at me, and I was like, what is it? The woman is too stunned to speak or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I didn't even know. I just drove off, and he calls me and has the nerve to say, why are you following me? I'm like, following you? I went and got gas at the gas station on the corner of your street. I never expected to see you out there getting the mail. And he's like,
Wow.
why? The person that he said he was, whose house it was, whose apartment it was, well, they're on vacation and I'm getting the mail for them. And I'm like, no, you're not. I hung up. I was like, literally like,
Shocked.
I look back thinking, why did I continue to stay? But that's a whole other story of why we stay with things.
Why we
And
stay.
the trauma bond.
Our next episode is trauma bonding. That's why we stay. We're going to get into that and talk about that.
So that is a good segue into next week.
It is.
We're going to talk about the trauma
Why
bond.
we stay with the narcissist and we don't just walk when we know we should. So
I do want to say context is everything, people, though. Context is everything. Hindsight is 2020. We can look back at these things and go, and without any emotion or context, and it's in a vacuum. This shit doesn't happen in a vacuum in real life, just in hindsight. So don't beat yourself up when we talk about these things saying, but I'm still in it or whatever. We'll talk about the trauma bond. So how do you beat a narcissist? At the end of the podcast, we're going to say, and we said it during as well, but live your best life, your best narc-free life with them in the rear view mirror. Keep them in that rear view mirror. Block, delete, clear. Do not ever respond if you do not have to, if there's no kids involved. If there are kids involved, it's gray rock. Use a parent talk Talking Parents app is what a lot of my clients use, Talking Parents app, because all of that is admissible in court. So if they bait you or try to bait you into emotional, it's on that app. You do not.
Yeah, we use the Family Wizard. It's the same sort of idea. Yeah.
Because that way, because if you react, it's going to go to court. So if you don't react, it's just them. It's just one-sided. The judge will see that. So you have to be strategic. And that's what I mean about being strategic legally is I'm going to use that parenting app. So when you go off on me on this parenting app and I don't respond, the judge is going to see that.
Yeah,
For
100%.
saying shit, because they can delete and with text, regular texting, it can be deleted and edited and all that. This stuff cannot.
No, it can't. That's why
So
they use it.
being strategic, and being strategic also means knowing when to walk away, when your mental health is far more important, and our mind and bodies are connected. So if our mental health goes, honestly, our physical health is right there too.
Yeah,
So
100%.
your physical and mental well-being are far more important than trying to prove yourself and your value and your worth over the NPD, because you are not going to win that way. They're going to end up losing on their own. They're going to end up falling apart. They're going to have a narcissistic breakdown, or the truth is going to come out. The mask is going to slip and fall and whatever. It doesn't matter. Do you live your life, enjoy your life? You'll get there, especially if you go to therapy. If you're having a really rough time of it, go to therapy. I recommend therapy anyways. I'm like a freaking broken record of recommending therapy. But don't take the bait, whether it's now or 5 years from now, because guess what? They've not changed. They may contact you in 5 years. You don't know them. You don't know them. Coat rack. I said, my ex is that the peanuts tree, the kite sucking tree, only he's a soul sucking tree. Do you remember Peanuts, Charlie Brown's kite always got trees? Yeah. That's my ex, but it's souls. He takes your soul. So
yeah. Oh yeah, they do. No, don't give them that.
So
all right.
Like, subscribe, follow, click that is subscribe, follow. Click the little bell that tells you when we drop episodes, which is about every 2 weeks. Please email us, wcwycw1@gmail.com, or leave a comment. We really, really, really do want to hear from you. Topics, suggestions, comments, things like that. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. I hope you guys enjoy. And we will be back with trauma bonding next week.
And thank you guys so much. Yes.
Thank you.
Mine. I'll have been, so I could tell you all about it.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.